right, well, did you watch the Super Bowl last night? More specifically, did you pay attention to the Super Bowl ads last night? Because one of them is sparking some privacy concerns in its wake. You may have seen this Ring doorbell advertisement that was showing off a feature that they have called Search Party, which they say uses artificial intelligence to find lost dogs. So if your dog is lost, you can put a picture out there and it can go to all the Ring cameras in the area, which are now programmed to try to keep an eye out for a lost dog. And they say that they're finding an average of 1 per day. But some people see that advertisement as an overstep and worry that this technology could be then used to watch people instead. Joining us now for some insight into that, Senior Security Advisor and former law enforcement officer, Gene Petrino. Gene, thank you so much for taking some time today.
Thank you for having me.
Did you see this ad, or you're familiar with the Search Party? I know it's not new, but it's something that they're really trying to get attention for.
Yeah, I saw it, and it highlighted the clear benefit to the public. Who doesn't want to see someone getting reunited with their lost pet? So it was a really nice kind of feel-good moment. But it does raise concerns when you start looking at the technology behind it.
Yeah, and I know, like I have a different make of doorbell camera that had a facial recognition feature that would tell you, somebody at your door. I don't think it's working anymore, but it did for a while. And so that kind of plays into using that AI or some other features to recognize things. It sounds like a great idea for a lost pet. But what is the concern here about how that could be misused?
Well, anytime that you're using AI to detect things, you're taking some human decision-making out of it, and it creates some governance issues. So how long are they going to retain this data? Do the users have the ability to opt in and opt out of it? And what rules do law enforcement have as far as utilizing that information from those cameras?
Now, Ring already has a partnership with another company that uses some of this data to help law enforcement. What do you know about what they're already doing in terms of that end of using their Ring cameras?
Yeah, so there's still a few steps you got to take for law enforcement to get access to the information. But the real case or issue you got to look at is, that the data that they're getting off of there isn't necessarily proof. It's just a lead, and it needs to be verified by a human. So while there are some concerns, there are some upsides to law enforcement using it. If you could imagine, an abducted child and being able to use the data for that, it would be something that probably the public would support more frequently, as opposed to other types of crimes that they might not have such an emotional pull towards. So, maybe a property crime, for example.
No, I know in a lot of investigations, we see this all the time, where investigators go look for cameras and then they ask those homeowners or residents, have you seen anything? Can we get access to your video? What is the concern by opting into some of these other things like Search Party? Is there a concern that just gives Ring and then law enforcement access to that video without asking you?
Yeah, and that's where the concern comes in for this feature is what we call it mission creep, is when it's designed for one thing, for example, finding lost pets, and then it starts to expand into finding humans. And the ramification is that do the owners of these cameras have the ability to opt in? If they do, that's a great thing. If they don't, that creates some other issues that you have to be concerned with. And aggregating that technology across a whole neighborhood, it can be seen as somewhat of an invasion of privacy.
I know there are some concerns I heard about or read that people, again, are concerned that maybe they're using this Search Party for lost pets as a way to get people to opt in so that they can use that for other purposes. Is that how you're seeing this, or do you think is that paranoia?
I hate to say that. I don't think it's necessarily paranoia. I think that just the reality of technology these days is, especially when it comes to AI, it's moving so rapidly that it's going to happen where it's going to start looking for other applications than just lost pets. But it's going to come down to governance, and there's already laws in place throughout the country. They vary by state to state and even by counties in those states, as far as the use of facial recognition software, which is probably where this will eventually lead to.
So what is your advice for people that own cameras, whether it's a doorbell camera or other outdoor cameras for their own security, in terms of, say they do want to use it if it can help find a lost child or a lost pet, but they don't want to use it if they feel like now that they are just part of sort of a big brother apparatus? I mean, what do you tell people about how to kind of thread that needle?
Well, again, it comes down to personal choice, and realizing that law enforcement can't just come take your camera and the data that's on it. They would require search warrants and subpoenas and things like that. But as an owner of one of the cameras, you might want to start finding out about, what is the retention of the data that's collected, especially in the use of that feature. So if someone's lost pet is gone, how long do they retain the feature of the footage that they've captured for, let's say, the few hours that it's on searching for the pet? Is it held for 30 days? Is it held forever? So that's one of the things you want to look at. And you want to make sure that an opt-in is not only allowed, but that you're able to revoke that at any time as well. Those are probably the most important things.
Yeah, because the concern again is that if you opt in for that search party feature, that is basically giving them permission, that they don't have to come ask for that it's giving them that permission to use that video.
Exactly, and as long as you're able to revoke that, I think that it's a relatively safe thing for people to use. And again, overall I like the idea. I just think it needs to be governed properly, and the consumer needs to make sure they understand the features and the capabilities of it. Okay.
Have you heard of any cases like this where maybe they've used this function to find something other than a lost pet? I don't know if there's any sort of the stories that are out there about how some of this has actually been used.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if it has been used. And again, that's always the danger with technology, is that it will be exploited not just by law enforcement, by also even bad guys that will exploit technology. So it's a double-edged sword. It's a great thing, but with everything, especially AI, it really needs to be governed properly, and the owners of these cameras and devices really need to understand the capabilities and what their rights are as far as opting in and opting out.
Yeah, so take a look at whichever product you own, and whatever, maybe, because some people have the products and they don't have a subscription, they just use it as when somebody comes to the door. Then you have the subscription, which may maintain video, give you the AI functions, and so whichever one, take a look at what your service is and what your choices are.
Exactly. That's the best advice.
All right. Well, Gene Petrino, thank you for joining us to talk about this. Again, an interesting conversation, because you see that it's heartwarming that what a great tool to find a lost dog in your neighborhood if all your neighbors' cameras are now a search party.
Yeah, there's always a dark side. So.
Yeah, but where always a dark side. Where does it go from there? It's something to keep an eye on. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right.